So, Vlad, do you want to start things rolling for us?
I think I should, indeed. Nice to see people tuning in, even though it's summer. People's minds are usually on holiday. It's nice to see few people tuning in for us. And thank you so much, Jean. Thank you so much, Leah, for making the time. And yeah, so this is Vlad here from Sedition side, hosting alongside Rory, our director. And I'd like to maybe first ask everyone to just give a quick introduction. If Rory, you would like to kick us off, and then Leah and John.
Of course. The Director Blain, I'm the director of Sedition. Sedition's been founded for about 11 years now. We're the original digital art space. My own background has always been in the arts in one form or another. I cut my teeth and started my life as a twinkle toes. I was dancing around on stage in a tutu and ballet tights. And from there, I graduated into working in galleries and the visual arts, and have been in the fine art world for about the last 25 years. Which ended in ended. I'm not dead yet, but has progressed into me working in the digital and the Sedition with for the last 11 years.
Thank you. Leah, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'm doing generative digital art since 1995. So I started quite early with some program called Director and the programming language Lingo. And back then it was everything online. And yeah, since then, almost 27 years have passed and many things have changed over time. And now I have ended up with NFTs. Who would have thought?
Cool. Thank you, Leah. And Jean, on to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Can Büyükberber. I was born in Turkey in 1987, 35 years ago. So for over the last 10 years now, I've been working in the digital arts and creating immersive experiences and exploring different types of new media like VR, AR, domes, and projection mapping on architecture and different types of this kind of spatial experiences. I have a background in physics and visual communication design, and I did my grad studies on arts and technology. So this is me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the introduction. I would like to make this as interactive as possible. We have received some awesome pre-submitted questions to which we will be getting in a second. But if anyone has any questions live, just request the microphone. We would love you to join the discussion and make it more interactive. And as a reminder, at the end of the AMA, Jean, Leah, and Rory will each pick their favorite question, the question they like the most, and the winner will each receive an NFT-mintable artwork by Leah or by Jean. Would be able to specify which artwork they would love to receive. So do tune in, and if you have any questions at any point, join our discussion and you get a chance to add an awesome work to your collection. So please request to speak. But in the meantime, let's get back. And the first question is actually going to be for everyone, for Rory, for Leah, and for John. So feel free to speak over each other, interrupt each other, or discuss in an orderly manner how you feel like doing it. So the question is, how can NFTs, smart contracts, be subverted so they can be used directly to support arts in the community, arts development and education, arts policy, to counter the negative get-rich-quick Ponzi scheme narratives that the NFT scene has attracted? So, guys, how can NFTs and smart contracts be subverted to support arts instead of the get-rich-quick Ponzi schemes?
I think it's already happening, to be honest. I mean,
Absolutely.
Artists can earn money now.
Yeah, I mean, the NFT advent of NFTs is itself a subversion of a previous structure that was already in place. I think in terms of using it to directly support arts in the community, I mean, as Leah says, there's hundreds of examples of this happening already. In fact, we've done on some ourselves. I mean, without using NFTs as they currently are, Sedition's previous incarnation of this with digital editions. We've already got several works that benefits particular charities or go back to art schools and help with placements and so on. So this is already in place. It's just another arm to that marketplace. I think it doesn't need to change per se. I think people will do it very naturally. It will just expand.
And I think if you want to buy an NFT, you should buy it because you like the art, not because you want to become rich by reselling it at some point. If you're doing it for the art, you will always be happy. If you're doing it just for the money, you might not be happy.
Yes, thank you. This is what I tell everyone on the site. I always have been. Buy the art you love, and if it happens to appreciate in value, then great.
Yeah, I agree with Leah and Rory. I think this is like anything else. This is the infancy days of this new technology, and I think time will tell, and it's going to shape people's perception, and more education, better curation, more people are aware of these technologies, and I think as the culture grows around this, new variables, it's going to take its natural calls, and hopefully the outcome is going to be something more positive that everyone can benefit from.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Perfect insights. Thank you. I'd like to throw the next question to Rory. And this question goes quite a lot to Sedition's NFT plans. And actually, two fairly similar questions I will read out loud. So first one, will Sedition work as a marketplace based on Ethereum and allow artists to make their own smart contracts? And the second, only Ethereum is implemented as the only cryptocurrency. In the future, there may be more, ? So there's two questions here. One, own smart contracts, and second, Ethereum. Why Ethereum? Only Ethereum, essentially.
Okay. Essentially, the first question: will we work as a marketplace and allow artists to make their own smart contracts? So yes and no. It's not a sort of binary situation. The first stage is ultimately all using a unified contract. It's the Sedition contract, so it has the same ultimate shape. Its basic structure guarantees the artist rights that we're most interested in. It guarantees a fair resale value, and the work appreciates, or hopefully appreciates, in value down the line. Moreover, it forever and always will identify the artist as the author and originator of that work. But it is, a sort of standardized Sedition smart contract. At the moment, we don't have the ability to allow artists to make their own ones. It's not something I'm ideologically opposed to, but in terms of building it onto our platform and catering for it and supporting it, that's a whole different thing down the line. Whether we can do that in the future, entirely possibly. It depends if it works for the business and if it makes sense for us and the artists. As for Ethereum, we've used Ethereum and we've implemented it as the only cryptocurrency for the time being. In the future, there could potentially be others. There are no plans in place right now to implement others. The reason we've chosen Ethereum is a very long-standing conversation. I mean, before we've started talking to you about this, behind the scenes in Sedition, this has been going on for a couple of years. And there's been an awful lot of talk about which platform, which cryptocurrency, which blockchain, etc., etc. Ultimately, we've landed on Ethereum because it does pretty much all of the things we need from it and that we want it to do very, very well, better than most of its competitors, except for the one thing we didn't like, which of course is the question about the proof of stake, proof of work algorithm and the resources and energy required and so on. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. Ultimately, we had faith that question was being resolved, and that faith is now being rewarded. The shift is due within about a month's time, the shift to proof of stake, and that should make things entirely more sustainable. So that's why it's Ethereum, and that's why we've taken that path. That said, we have very deliberately done this in a way that does give us the mobility to pivot elsewhere if things don't work out the way we want.
Thank you, Rory. Leah, I'd like to address the next question to you. And before I do, I'd like to remind everyone that please ask the microphone and ask your questions if you'd like to ask anything from one of our speakers, because you get a chance to win a nice artwork for your favorite question. So just as a reminder. But Leah, on to you. Do artists get caught up with FOMO like collectors?
100%. Yes. Yes, of course. I mean,
voice of experience, wasn't it?
It's always like, there's someone doing something and you're like, oh my God, why didn't I think about that? Or I don't know. And when it comes to NFTs, it's there are so many platforms, and you're like, am I on the right platform? Maybe not. Maybe this one is not for me. Maybe I should try another one. And then you try another one, and it's like, is it the right one? I'm not sure. It's like, so the thing is, you can never know if what you're doing is the right thing. So of course, there is FOMO all the time. Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting insight and actually a very nice question. And Jean, I'd like to throw the next question to you. Will you create an NFT for the Invisible exhibition?
All right. So I think the person who asked this question is referring to one of my works I did back in 2017. This was an augmented reality experiment which I have done with one of my developer friends in San Francisco when the iOS AR kit first, was available. So what we did there was just placing some computer generated people around the Young Museum in Golden State Park in California. So what I would do, I guess, related to that is I'm interested in AR artworks. Actually, I was currently incorporating some QR code activation with some of my digital works, so people can experience the digital screens also in their phones and smart devices in 3D with AR. So I think not directly that particular work in 2017, but I'm thinking about including AR activation, in the near future NFT releases.
Thank you. And here I actually see a couple of questions being submitted and not being asked live, but submitted via tweet from user Manson14. So hi. If you'd love to ask them live, you can request the mic. Otherwise, I will read out your comments. So few comments. And do please, Rory, Leah, and John, feel free to react what your thoughts on these are. So first, art should exist as art. No roadmap would be helpful. And second, I have a question about NFT plan of Sedition. You guys also have previous digital art pieces before NFTs. How are you going to deal with them? And lastly, comment, NFTs are not art. NFTs are just tool for blockchain. There should be no NFT art. It's just art. So there is few questions. So there's a question about how Sedition is going to deal with previous digital art pieces before NFTs, and a comment that there shouldn't be an NFT art. It's just art, and should exist as art. So what do you guys think?
Well, that's quite a block.
I can.
So go ahead, guys. After you, Leah.
I think I can answer the last question because I'm old and my memory is weak, so I can only remember the last question. No, I'm joking. NFT art, yes, totally agree. You also don't call it pencil art or oil art or paper art. Well, paper art, when you work with paper, that's a different thing. But yes, totally agree. NFTs per se are just the medium and not the art itself.
Absolutely. And that's a song we've been singing at Sedition since long before NFTs arrived.
Yes, and Rory, if you would recap the plans of Sedition on how to deal with the previous pieces.
Actually, that's particularly apposite to this call because obviously the two artists who are with us here and a third artist as well called Doug Foster. These are the three artists on the site, the first three whose works we have now made, or certain selected works we have now made mintable. This is a new verb we've coined on Sedition, but I think you get the idea. It means that the artwork can be minted as an NFT. Now, that's basically a plan that we're rolling out gradually across the site. The idea is that all of the historical works on Sedition, the pieces that are sitting in your vaults now for you, the collectors, you will be given the choice to mint those as NFTs if you wish to do so. Now, we're not in the business of, I'm not a crypto fanatic. I think it's a very useful tool. I think it's got great benefits both for artists and collectors. But I don't think it's completely black and white. There's a lot that's being ironed out, and that's what we're discussing for a start. So we don't want to force anyone into that road. We're giving an option. If you want to register your ownership of your artworks on the blockchain, and if you therefore want afterwards to potentially resell them or check their value in the open market on OpenSea or somewhere, then you have that option. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You'll still be able to view them and enjoy them primarily just as artworks via the players and in the vault the way you always have been able to. That's fundamental. We're first and foremost an art platform. We're about art, and one of the questions that came up in that whole that group you said there, I sort of agreed with, but not entirely. It's I think context does matter. You can't just drop art and it should never have a roadmap or never have any kind of markers or any kind of context. I think that's wrong. I mean, art is in many ways, it's a lot of different things, but one of the things it can be is a historical signpost, a marker of where we were and what thoughts were happening within society or the artist at this particular moment in time. Taken out of context, it can often lose some of that meaning, or sometimes it can gain from it, but that's a whole different question, and I'm going off on a tangent. So yes, old works on Sedition can be turned into NFTs. Eventually, all of the works will be given that choice, so that's how we're dealing with the historical pieces.
Nice, thank you. By the way, I also see now Twitter's been a little bit glitchy because it now shows me that there's 5 comments, but I only am able to see the previous 3. So if someone's actually commenting, then please do jump in. It makes it a little bit easier and makes it more engaging that, you know, the comments are being asked by the person who is curious. And of course, you get a chance to win an NFT, which is an extra benefit. So the next question, actually, that goes for everyone. Are NFTs subject to probate as part of an estate? And if so, how do the executor's beneficiaries access the NFTs after death? So it's a bit dark question, but what do you guys think? How does that actually work?
Yeah, dark questions are great. we Austrians have even a legal set for which has like the whole funeral set. It's made by the Viennese Funeral Association. It's great. Yeah, I think you can just put your words in a letter, seal it, and then you tell whoever deals with your stuff to give it to whatever person you wanted. I think that's my approach.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, well, what you're describing there is the logical way that most of us would choose to hand down a legacy. You know, you'd write your 21 words or your code or your password, whatever it was, in an envelope, give it to the executor of the will, and that's handed out to whoever you want to give it to. But I think the question also is looking at it more from a legal and statutory standpoint. For example, if that isn't done and those words aren't, or the password isn't given, or even if it is, how does the government get their share? How is it taxed? How is it? That's kind of the darker side behind the question, I think. And the answer to it right now is actually this is being fought over and uncovered as we speak. There's a lot of sort of legal activity going on around probate and essentially what you might call death duties and taxes and how much access they've got, because the bottom line is right now, unless you give them those passwords, they don't have much access. Even if legally speaking they should have a percentage of that wealth, and if they can't access it, then it's meaningless. There is no one position on this right now. It's still being decided.
Thanks. Interesting insights and indeed quite tough questions. I see the first person who asked to speak and asked to ask a question live. Kaitriona, hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I've just added to you as a speaker, so you should be able in the left corner unmute yourself and ask your question.
Well, hello. I didn't really have a question so much. A lot of it seems to be tied up in money, and it's kind of dirty. The appreciation of art, you know, just want something simple or something beautiful in your world, and it just seems to be very embroiled in money. So is that good or bad? Or
also the general sort of feeling there, but actually it's if I can be so bold, it's sort of based on a slightly wrong assumption. There's a sort of an idea that art is this this sanitized, you know, white cube thing that can be appreciated in its reality, and it's it can be, and it is. But the point is, the artists who made it are still human beings. They still have to eat and earn a living. And that's not just true now. It's been true throughout history. The great thing, I mean, you're right. NFTs have a lot of shadiness attached to them because the crypto space generally is quite wide open to fraud and therefore has got a reputation in some cases for it. But that doesn't mean that any art being shown in that space is necessarily synonymous with that. I mean, what NFTs have done is allow an artist a route to market and a way to earn a living from their work that really wasn't there before. But actually, I think Jean and Leah can probably answer that much better than me.
Yeah, what do you actually guys think? Jean, Leah, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I had to teach all the time to make my basic income, and the art money that came in basically is some art money for exhibitions, or I also did a lot of live visualizations. That was basically on top of that teaching basic income. And I have to say, I lived very, very cheap, really. And in 2017, I decided I don't want to teach anymore. And I stopped teaching. And back then, my husband was still a programmer, and he said he will back me up on that. And so this jump into just being an artist was easier. It worked out even before NFTs that I could live from it. But it was really minimalistic living, so to say. And with NFTs, it's like it was a big help, and it's really like it's the first time in history that artists are getting paid kind of normally. I mean, being an artist is hard work. It's not just hanging out and having fun. It's probably more work than a lot of other businesses you can imagine. So I think it's quite nice that this is finally happening. Yeah.
My perception is also similar to Leah's. You know, when this first came to the public attention, you know, this artist made this many $1 million, this artist made that many $1 million. You know, I was also really not a big fan of what was like how this was marketed. You know, but I think in general, when you look at the big picture of things, and when we think about, you know, the future economies and, you know, the digital life of the, you know, upcoming era, I think it's a cool thing to see the creativity, and the art is going to be much more appreciated than many other professions that used to be, you know, put on the highlights. You know, the rock stars and, you know, the rappers and, you know, the models and, you know, actors, actresses. These people were who was mostly talked about because of, you know, so many different things. I think for the next generations, there is a bit of encouragement towards, hey, you know, in the near future, maybe a lot of jobs are going to extinct, but creativity is going to still matter. Maybe it's a good time to be an artist and create art, and because you can make a living with it now. I'm you know, much more focusing on that, you know, positive aspect of it.
I think one thing I'd like to add, I mean, I do have a lot of sympathy with Catriona's original stance here, because the focus on NFTs, and certainly everything you've read in the media and the papers up till now, it's not about NFTs and it's not about art. It's about one thing and one thing only. It's the money. It's, you know, big figures with lots of zeros and cryptocurrency attached, and, you know, all the stuff that makes the headlines. And that does seem somewhat sordid, and, you know, certainly not what I've come to appreciate and expect from a lifetime of working within the fine art world. So I understand that, but actually that's kind of what we're doing here. Despite the great benefits of decentralization, I feel, and we feel, that there is a benefit to a certain degree of centralization. And in fact, for example, a site like ours, something that curates and adjusts and gives you some sort of roadmap or guide through the forest, is exactly that kind of thing. We're imposing some traditional art world values onto what is a pretty much free-for-all landscape at the moment. And that landscape's got great benefits, but I think putting these values in place is exactly, we're on the same page. We want it not just to be about the money and not just to be about numbers. We want it to be about art. LIA just said, don't buy something because it's an investment, buy it because it's the art you love. And that's really what Sedition's about. We're trying to make that possible. Yeah, there's an investment potential, there's cryptocurrency attached, and artists can earn a living, which is great. But actually what we're about is showing you the best art available in the current landscape and then letting you decide what you want to do with it.
Thanks, guys, for the insights. And of course, I think the bottom line is that we shouldn't feel bad saying that, artists should be able to earn a living. I think that's important. And I think now with the advent of NFTs, that is becoming luckily easier. So I think sometimes, it's not being perceived as such. But anyways, moving on, thank you very much for your question. If anyone else has questions, do please jump in the queue. So do ask for the microphone. And in the meantime, I see a couple of questions that have been written here on Twitter, like right now live. So Chris, hi, and thank you for your question. So the question is, this one would go to Rory. Have you given thought to how Sedition NFTs will be structured on OpenSea? To clarify, will all artists be in one big collection, or will there be distinct collections per artist?
Actually, we've is my mic? I'm sorry, I thought I'd muted myself. We've been discussing exactly that point recently, so this is a very apposite question. I don't have a fixed answer for you yet. Initially, it's one big collection, but we've got an awful lot of artists and wild diversity of different kinds of art. So we are looking at ways to better present that in a context like OpenSea. There's only so much you can do on that, because obviously we have to work within the structure that they impose upon us. But yes, as you say, you can have sub-collections and other bits and pieces. We haven't fully decided how that will shape up as yet, so watch this space. We'll announce it.
Thanks. And another question comes from one more listener who I saw tuning in, called Young Bit. And actually that question was also pre-submitted. So the question is, can NFTs be auctioned on Sedition's platform?
Not at the present time, no. As I said, I like to keep all options open in the future, but no, we've had no plans to do that at the current time.
All right, so now let's move on. And the next question would go, I think, to both LIA and Jean, unless someone wants to ask a question live. So this question, one of the pre-submitted ones, when you consider the future of getting your art to the public and of monetization, can you describe what your distribution strategy might look like in, say, a year, 5 years? A decade or more? So essentially the question is, how are you going to distribute and monetize your art in a year's time, 5 years' time, or a decade's time? So guys, make your wildest guesses.
I need a crystal ball, I think. No, you never know. You never know. I mean, you never know what your monetary plan will be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's impossible to say. Maybe NFTs will be so out of fashion in half a year. Who knows? Then I'll go back to selling videos and go doing live visuals or trying to sell prints or whatever I did. I did so many things you can't imagine, just trying to sell my art. And it's maybe I have to go back to other models, but it's really impossible to tell what's going to be in the future. We don't even know if there will be a lot of positive future. I don't know. Maybe it will be great. Maybe it will be horrible. We can't tell. We live here and now, I think.
Yeah.
I also, as a life philosophy, I like riding the wave and not really force my work into life itself, but I'm waiting for just things to happen. Sometimes it's how everything worked out for me. But in terms of media and distribution, I think what I've been enjoying so far is thinking my digital works kind of media free, so it can exist in any kind of media. And so far, this kind of flexibility of medium was working out for me, because one work can exist in so many different types of displays or technologies or real time, pre-rendered screens or VR headsets and prints and physical and digital. So I've been really enjoying this kind of flexibility of creativity through the use of different media. So, in the upcoming years, hopefully, I just hope that there's going to be novelty in the technology. So we're going to see hopefully some media that we've never possibly imagined before. And I think it will be really cool to implement our works into that and explore the potential in that new technology. So that's my point of view.
Thanks, John. I'm with Leah. I basically couldn't.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in 1995 I would sell CD-ROMs, my work on CD-ROMs. Then they don't exist anymore. People don't have CD-ROM players anymore. So, but the work still exists because I ported some of it online. This is like the work is still there. The code is still there. Everything is still there. There will be different, as John said, there will be different mediums that we cannot even imagine yet, and it will be great. I think.
Yeah, when I grew up, I was going to be an astronaut. I thought Brexit was never going to happen. I can't predict anything. I'm staying well out of that. So, not for me.
Okay, cool. This question is, I think, I see it had just been written by Tim Zurich, who is on this Twitter space. Can you tell us about your next exciting project or projects? So I think that's a perfect question, actually, for everyone. Rory, Leah, Jean, what are your next exciting projects?
Hanging out with my nephew for the next 10 days, I think.
Oh, that's a nice project.
He's here for a visit.
That wins.
Yeah. The questions are always like, what's your next big thing? You never know. Yeah, I mean, as an artist, I'm currently working on many versions of many iterations of pieces that I have. I have pieces simultaneously on my machine, and then something comes along and there is an exhibition possibility, and then I'm thinking, okay, I can further develop this one or that one, and this one fits better the theme of the exhibition and so on. So there is a lot of things going on all the time, but there is not the one next big thing. I don't think so. Yeah.
How about you, Jean?
I can't give a lot of details because there is a lot of NDAs and those kind of nature of agreements involved, but a trend that
I can tell you, but I have to kill you thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I can mention it, but after that, I should not be existing. Something. Anyways, a trend that I've been, a pattern that I've been observing that's been underlying in a lot of recent projects is something related to, this I can tell. Digital art is appreciated by the larger masses more and more. And I think, with new kind of spaces, or, this can be an architectural space, or it can be a, more of a personal space or a vehicle, or a vehicle of many sorts. There are more and more cases that I think designers, architects, engineers are willing to incorporate digital art in those spaces, and there has been currently multiple projects in that nature that approached me and wants my digital art in it. So this has been exciting for me, and these are going to be released in the next year, in 3 months, in 6 months, in that kind of timeline. So I'm excited about those kind of projects because they're new.
Fantastic, thanks, John. From my perspective with Sedition, well, we're engaged on very much the same road. And I agree completely in what Jan said, is that the advent of digital art, or the appreciation of art in digital media, is at an inflection point. It's more widely viewed than ever before, and importantly, it's now seen as a something that's an actual asset, or can be a holder of value as well as a beautiful art piece. In other words, it's achieved a certain degree of parity with the physical form, which is what we've always wanted for it from Sedition. So our mission here continues. We've got lots ahead of us in terms of developing our NFT entry. We'll be making lots of announcements about that. We plan to hugely improve the amount of apps and viewers available, because our artworks, whether NFTs or not, are most of all to be enjoyed as artworks. And projects, well, on a personal level, I'm about to go on holiday where I will work very hard on my chess in an effort to succeed in beating my father-in-law, who just consistently pummels me. I haven't got there once yet. So that's my other project, beating my dad-in-law in chess. That's it.
Cool. Cool. Since we're talking about future projects, there was one question submitted specifically for Jean. And the question is, I own some of your amazing artwork on Sedition. When is your next Sedition release? So, even though the question's for Jean, I think also we'd love to know when LIA's next Sedition release is. But that's Jean, first up is you.
Transparent bid for the best question right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, we have something in the works with the Sedition team. Hopefully, this is going to be a special kind of release, because there is a third party involved in this project, and they actually approached me through Sedition. They collected my work, and thank you very much for collecting my works on Sedition also. And one of the collectors actually came with this project. And I mentioned Rory if they would be interested in releasing this kind of commissioned artwork on Sedition, and they also appreciated the concept. And hopefully we're going to be releasing some teaser images and information on September about this new collaboration with Sedition.
Absolutely. You'll be making some announcements then, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, I just have released a new work in the beginning of June, so it will be a while because I'm not that fast in producing art. It's called Crossing Over, and there are still a few pieces left for you to collect, so go there.
Yes. That is mintable as an NFT, so that one is the best of both worlds immediately.
Yes, exactly. Just as a reminder that both artworks by Jean, some of the artworks both by Jean and by LIA are now mintable as NFTs on Sedition. So you do get the best of both worlds, like Rory mentioned. So next question, I am gonna throw the next question to Rory. Can a great photographer that is not well known succeed on Sedition with his new NFT art collection? As I see, there are huge artists and very famous names. Is there space for success for beginners? And actually, a similar-ish question is, I'm a crypto artist, and I would like to know if there is a filter to be an artist on your platform. So, yeah, this one's for you, Rory.
The answer is yes, there absolutely is space. As you notice, there are some very established and very well-known artists on the site, but there are also a number of emerging people just stepping out and just building a career for themselves. The advantage there is there's an established audience. It's a platform that has hundreds of thousands of eyes upon it. So if you are stepping out into the world for the first time, it's a great place to dip a toe into the market and see how things work. On the other hand, if you're an established artist and you want to increase that reach and use the platform to get a wider audience, then we're perfect for that as well. So yeah, there's certainly room to grow. Ultimately, it's we'll do our best to give you a display space to promote your work, to include you in our newsletter and our social media, and we'll put you in front of our audience. But the rest is down to you and the audience. If they like your work, then you'll be a success. If they don't, then not so much. We don't control that bit too much. The other question, I think, was, sorry, remind me, Vlad, what was the other question?
About being a crypto artist. What are the criteria to come onto Sedition?
Right, of course. We have two sections for Sedition, open platform and the curated platform. The filter on the curated platform is the curated team on Sedition. So it's an invitation-only space, and they have to like, approve, and invite you to be there. The open platform, any artist anywhere in the world can sign up, put their work there, and start presenting to the Sedition audience. And we regularly invite people from open platform across to curated. It's a very good feeding ground for the site, as it were.
Thank you. Next question will go to everyone I see here in the comments here on Twitter from Ben. Which artists in the NFT space do you consider to be the most innovative right now, and why? So I think that's a perfect question for everyone. Which artists in the NFT space you consider most innovative?
That's a hard one. That's an absolutely hard question because the NFT space has some weirdnesses, I think.
Yeah.
And the weirdnesses are that there are some artists who are quite new and they have some very particular style that is recognizable, which is in the traditional art world a very good thing. And this has been clearly transported to the NFT space. Meaning, if someone is doing the same stuff over and over again, then you will see something by that artist and you will be like, oh, that's a name of the artist. And I can see that there is a lot of hype for some artists, and there is almost nothing for artists where I would expect a big hype around them. So it's really hard to say. So I think the monetary success of selling crypto art has not really much to do with the actual quality of the art. And so it's really hard to say, okay, I like this artist the best. I personally admire Helena Sareen, who is an AI artist, I would say. I don't know how she calls herself, but I really admire her because, yeah, what she's doing is great, I think. That's my 2 cents.
Any more insights? Or cool, let's move on to the next one. So, Jean, let me throw you the next question. This one. Hi, Jean. Is music or code the first step to creating your generative art?
I receive this type of questions a lot, and to be frank, I use generative aesthetics, but I'm not a coder myself. I call myself a visual artist, so most of the work that I create is through use of software and user interfaces and working with different parameters and tools and stuff. So I don't write code myself, but I use generative processes to create, interesting results and randomize some of the aesthetics of the work.
Okay. And let me throw the next question to Rory. And this one is an interesting one. How can minting something in Europe powered by Putin gas be considered any geopolitical good? Isn't it creating a revenue stream to exactly the kind of players we don't want in power in the future? What do you guys think?
We're talking Vladimir Putin gas here, is that?
Yeah, we're talking Vladimir Putin gas and minting and NFTs.
I just wonder if this is the same gas that I have to use in the house to start the water boiler.
Exactly.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
Oh no!
It's an insanely planted question because of course, minting artworks powered by energy from Putin gas. I mean, anything that's powering Putin gas obviously is bad. But if that question was written by anyone in Europe, then the energy he used to give us that question is also powered by Putin gas. Obviously, we need a better energy strategy, and that's something we're all looking at. But that's a countrywide, Europe-wide situation, not something that's the purview of Sedition or the artists.
Indeed.
I think it was a funny question.
I hope so.
I hope this was a funny question.
Cool. Just some final questions that I have for Rory, for Leah, and for Jean, unless someone wants to jump in and ask the questions live, because this time we've been getting lots of comments, actually, and lots of pre-submitted questions, but the live discussion seems to not be too active. Maybe people are on the beach or something and not wanting to jump in. But let me throw the
Come
next...
on, everyone, don't be shy. We want to have fun.
Exactly. We don't mind if you have some funny background noises.
We're going to have to
have
make
them.
a shot of tequila an entry requirement for anyone coming into Twitter Space. That'll liven it up.
Indeed.
And I'm also on the beach, so I can relate.
Well, that's a nice setting. Nice setting. Leah, a question for you. Do you feel more artistic about Tezos or ETH platforms for your art? That's a real question. I didn't make that one up. It was pre-submitted.
I mean, first of all, I was just thinking, do I ever feel artistic?
Okay.
That's a very philosophical question, I think. Do I feel artistic? Sometimes I feel artificial. But that's a different thing. My English is not that good. Now, so it basically, I started on Super Rare, and I had no idea what I was doing, and so I tried out different things, different styles. It was also a bit freeing because I could finally do some. I did something that was real fun. Like I generated some art, and then I placed a little deer in the middle of the triptych. I was like, this is fun, but I was not really satisfied because that's not the core of my work. But the core of my work is basically moving images or having interaction or stuff that reacts to music or some series where every time I change some parameters in the code. And so that's when Hick and Nunk started. That was for me really great when they had their first interactive pieces, when it was possible to actually put some interactive work online. I also have images on Foundation. So I use both platforms and art blocks, of course. Yes, art blocks. I almost forgot. Personal joke.
There are some works available on art blocks right now, in case anyone didn't get that plug.
Yeah. No, but of course, Tezos were better in the beginning because of the environment, and ETH was a bit able, but I had to try it out because my income in 2020 was exactly 546 euros, and that's not enough for living because of COVID. I had no income, nothing left. There were no exhibitions, no museums were open. I couldn't do any live shows, nothing. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, should I do something to be able to continue to support myself, or should I risk doing something that is not 100% correct? With art blocks, for instance, I was donating to cotap.org to further offset the carbon offset, whatever it's called. My English is really bad. So there are things you can do to when you're using ETH, or up until now, because it will all change now. It will all be good, hopefully. So of course Tezos better for the environment up until now. Ethereum probably also as good in the future. So yeah, that's my answer. Or I don't even know if it was an answer. I hope it was an answer.
It was
something.
It was something. It's hot. My brain doesn't work. I'm not on the beach. I'm in a hot place.
And Jean, now next question goes to you. Though your work is generative, much of it comes to the public in the form of JPEGs or video. How do you feel about a code-centered platform that allows generative work to run native?
Yeah, this is a similar question, but I can take it from the real-time perspective of things, because I also use, game engines to create VR experiences and such. I think, this part has been really slow. If we compare it to our expectations in terms of the interactive artworks, because I have many artist friends who create interactive installations and those kind of work. And something surprising to them is also they can't really exhibit or sell their works everywhere in their true form as an interactive work, but they are mostly, they're expected to create a video of that work or a photo of that work. I think that's a really interesting situation, and it all comes to technology. I think the web technology and also the display technologies, because in some of the also large scale works that I've been involved in, like architectural large scale LED screens and things like that. For instance, you create a real time work first for that large resolution, and then after a week or so it stops working, and so people are expecting, why don't you just create a rendering of this or a video of this, and so we can exhibit that way. I don't have a very clear answer, but I know that people were frustrated about this, and hopefully as new graphics cards and new platforms, new technologies arrive, we're going to be able to do this, because I think everything in the digital art world is going to be in this real-time work, that real-time world that we can explore and interact with. But so far the future hasn't been coming that fast, interestingly.
All right, now we are approaching the end. I have a question for Rory. The artworks we already have in our vaults, it's not possible to make NFTs of them. Greetings from Amsterdam, Dirk.
I think we may have done that one, but I'll happily recap it, since it's kind of a chance to plug something else as well. Yes, absolutely. The idea is that all of the artworks that are currently in your vaults, all of them will eventually be given an option where you can mint it as an NFT, ultimately list your ownership of that on the blockchain. Now, in point of fact, I have on this channel with us right now, LIA and John, both have artworks available on the platform that have been given that treatment. They're the very first pieces there. So you can now buy, if you own those artworks already, you can see in your vault that you can mint them as an NFT. And if you don't own those artworks, there are still some editions available, at least on some of the editions, that you can then purchase and then mint as an NFT or hold as a standard digital edition as you wish. So yes, Dirk, and thank you. Greetings from London. You can mint your works in the vault.
Cool. And I'd like to address the last question to everyone. This is an interesting one. Fast forward to an NFT-rich future. What will be the predominant use case for NFTs for the public? Collectability, fan engagement, or more prosaic business and commerce uses? So, Jean, Leah, Rory, what do you guys think? What will be the use case for NFTs in an NFT-rich future? Or will there even be an NFT-rich future, for that matter?
I'll say art, just because.
NFTs specifically, I think it's got a number of different uses, but realistically, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding really about what NFTs are and what they can be. The technology has an awful lot of potential applications, and we're really just scratching the surface of that. I suspect there'll be a great many more applications of it than I can possibly predict. But from an art situation, and this goes back to some of the other comments about, no difference between art versus NFT art. Art is just art. Well, yeah, of course it is. There's no such thing as NFT art. An NFT is just it's a tool. It's actually literally a token. It means you're owning something. It's the tag you put on a digital asset to say, I own this. This is mine as of these details and this time of this moment, here and when. So that's really all it is. It's just, flagging that to the world. So an NFT future could have thousands of different uses, certainly collectability, fan engagement, loads of business and commerce uses. From an art world perspective, its great benefit really are the potential long-term future cash benefits for artists, the route to market for artists, and most importantly, that ability to take ownership and copyright and authorship of a digital asset that wasn't really in place before.
I think so. If the near future economic models embraces the blockchain technology, anything you can purchase can exist as an NFT, and yeah, so anything is possible.
Okay, cool. And guys, now on to the fun part. Now I'm gonna ask each of you individually to pick what your favorite question was, and the people whose questions who submitted the favorite questions are gonna get an artwork, an NFT mintable artwork, either by LIA or by Jean. So, drum rolls. Who wants to start?
I'd like to pick Catriona actually for the question about do NFTs and money soil or sully the sort of purity of the art landscape. I don't agree with the premise, but I think it generated the most interesting discussion of the evening. So thanks, Catriona, and I'd love to give you an artwork.
Thanks, Catriona. Just drop your email associated with your Sedition account to Pierre on Twitter, and yeah, I will reach out to you, ask your preference, and we're gonna drop you an artwork. Next up, LIA, what was your favorite question?
Actually, it was one of the pre-submitted ones. Do artists get caught up with FOMO like collectors? Because I think it's not often that people actually talk about their fears or their emotions. That's not something that's naturally coming, because we all have to be strong in the space, right? So that's why I like this question. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you. And Jean, what was your favorite question?
I think I would like to pick the last question because it somehow relates to what people are dealing with in the area. The generative art platform, code-based platform question. I think it's very relevant and it's a fair question.
All right. So just to be clear, the question that was specifically to you, so though your work is generative, much of it comes in the form of JPEGs and video. That's the question you mean?
That's right.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. So regarding the winners, 2 were with the pre-submitted questions, so they will get an email directly from me. We'll drop an email tomorrow asking to pick the artwork, and we'll just drop them. And for Katerina, just please drop your email here on Twitter, and we'll continue here on Twitter that you can then just pick the artwork by LIA or by Jean that you would love, an NFT mintable artwork. So, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Rory, LIA, Jean, any final closing remarks for the evening?
No, just a really big thank you to LIA and Jean and all of you who have turned up to listen and ask questions. It's been a really interesting discussion, and thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, me and John.
Likewise, it's been a great pleasure to have the same platform, and thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to share this moment with you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rory, LIA, Jean.
Bye-bye.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.